Welcome back, beautiful souls. Today's story is proof that sometimes the most real love starts with the most ridiculous lie. A single dad, his intimidating boss, one fake marriage, and a weekend that changed everything. Grab your tissues and your snacks. This one hits different. Let's dive in. The fluorescent lights of the conference room buzzed overhead as Daniel Rivera stared at the email on his phone, his world crumbling with each word he read. Effective immediately, the Atlanta branch will be closing. All employees are required to attend a mandatory meeting regarding severance packages. He had exactly $32 in his checking account, a 6-year-old daughter who needed new school shoes, and now, apparently, no job. But what happened next would change everything, because the woman who walked through that door wasn't just his new boss. She was the same woman he'd accidentally insulted at his daughter's soccer game 3 days ago, calling her the most uptight person he'd ever met. And she had heard every single word. Emma Caldwell stood 5'8" in her signature navy blazer, blonde hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that meant business. She scanned the room full of anxious employees, her ice blue eyes landing on Daniel with a flicker of recognition and something else. Anger. Amusement. He couldn't tell, and honestly, he was too terrified to find out. She cleared her throat, commanding attention without raising her voice. "I'm Emma Caldwell, the new regional director. I know you've all received concerning news about the Atlanta branch, but I'm here to tell you that this office isn't closing. Not if I have anything to say about it." A murmur rippled through the room. Daniel felt his shoulders drop an inch from his ears. Maybe he'd get to keep his job after all. Maybe she hadn't heard him at the soccer game. Maybe. Mr. Rivera. Her voice cut through his thoughts like a blade through butter. "I'd like to see you in my office after this meeting. We have some things to discuss." His colleague and best friend, his colleague and best friend, Tyler Brooks, leaned over with a grimace. "Dude, you're so dead. I heard she fired someone in Chicago for using the wrong font in a presentation." Daniel swallowed hard. Thanks for the encouragement. The meeting dragged on for another 45 minutes, during which Daniel learned that Emma had been brought in specifically to turn failing branches around. She had a 92% success rate. She also had a reputation for being cold, calculating, and completely immune to charm. Perfect. Just perfect. He was a single dad who survived on charm and coffee. This was going to be a disaster. When he finally knocked on her office door, his palms were sweating. "Come in," she called, and he stepped inside to find her standing by the window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. She turned slowly, and for a moment, he was struck by how different she looked without the harsh conference room lighting. Softer somehow, more human. "Sit down, Mr. Rivera." He sat. "Look, about what I said at the soccer game. You called me uptight." She didn't phrase it as a question. "I also called you judgmental, rigid. And I believe my exact words were, probably the kind of person who alphabetizes her spice rack." The corner of her mouth twitched. Was that almost a smile? "I do alphabetize my spice rack. Efficiency matters. I'm sorry. Truly. My daughter had just lost her game, and I was frustrated. And you happened to be the parent who told her she needed to work on her footwork. She's 6. She's still working on not eating glue." Emma sat down across from him, folding her hands on the desk. "Your daughter is actually quite talented. I wasn't criticizing her. I was trying to help by telling a first grader she has poor form, by giving honest feedback, something her father might benefit from learning as well." Daniel leaned back, crossing his arms. "Is this the part where you fire me for being rude at a children's sporting event?" "No." She pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk. "This is the part where I tell you that you have the highest client satisfaction ratings in this entire region. Your sales numbers are in the top 5% nationally. And according to everyone I've spoken to, you're the heart of this office." She paused. "You're also chronically late, your expense reports are a mess, and you've been written up 3 times for bringing your daughter to work when childcare fell through." In my defense, she's very quiet, and she does excellent crayon work. I saw the mural she drew on the break room wall. That was abstract expressionism. This time, Emma did smile. It was small, barely there, but it transformed her entire face. "Here's my problem, Daniel. I need to present this branch's recovery plan to the board in 6 weeks. The biggest client we have, Morrison and Associates, is threatening to leave because they feel neglected. They specifically requested someone from this office to attend their corporate retreat next weekend and give a presentation on our continued partnership." "Okay, so send Tyler, he's good with clients. Morrison's CEO specifically requested you. Apparently, you helped his daughter with her college application essay last year." Daniel remembered. 17-year-old Sophia Morrison had been stressed beyond belief, and he'd spent his lunch break helping her brainstorm. He hadn't thought much of it. "I just told her to write about what mattered to her." "Well, it mattered to her father. He wants you there. But there's a complication." Emma hesitated, which seemed uncharacteristic for someone so confident. "It's a couple's retreat. Partners only. No exceptions." The implications of that sentence hit Daniel slowly. "Are you asking me to bring a date to a corporate retreat?" "I'm telling you that Morrison specifically mentioned he'd love to meet your wife. Apparently, you've mentioned her in passing during client calls. Said she was the light of your life and completely out of your league." Daniel's face went red. He had said those things. He'd been talking about his daughter Rosie, but Morrison must have assumed. "I'm not married. I'm a single dad. Rosie is my daughter, not my wife." "Then we have a problem. Can't I just explain the misunderstanding? Morrison is old, fashioned. He's built his entire brand on family values. If he finds out you lied to him, even unintentionally, we lose the account. The branch closes. 47 people lose their jobs." Emma's eyes met his, "including you." And that's when Daniel said the stupidest thing he'd ever said in his entire life. "What if someone pretended to be my wife?" The silence stretched between them like a rubber band about to snap. Emma stared at him, her expression unreadable. "Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that someone, not me, obviously someone smarter, attends this retreat as my fake wife. We save the account, save the jobs, and then go back to our regularly scheduled mutual disdain." "And who exactly would play this role?" Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. He hadn't thought that far ahead. "I don't know. Do you have any single friends who owe you a favor?" Emma laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was so unexpected that Daniel just stared at her. "Mr. Rivera, my entire life is this job. I don't have friends. I have colleagues, a very demanding mother who calls every Sunday to ask why I'm not married yet, and a cat named Chairman Meow who tolerates my existence." Chairman Meow. I didn't name him. He came with it. Daniel found himself smiling despite the absurdity of the situation. "So we're stuck. Unless..." Emma trailed off, something shifting in her expression. "Unless I do it." If you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit that like button right now, because things are about to get complicated in ways neither of them expected. Daniel was certain he'd misheard her. "I'm sorry, what?" "Think about it. I need to be at this retreat anyway to assess the account. If I go as your wife, I can monitor the situation, ensure the presentation goes perfectly, and nobody has to know about the misunderstanding." She said it like she was proposing a quarterly budget review, not a fake marriage. "You want to pretend to be my wife? You, my boss, the woman who just told me my expense reports are, quote, a crime against accounting. It's a business arrangement, nothing more. We attend the retreat, play nice, close the deal, and return to professional distance. And if someone finds out, they won't. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. Daniel studied her face, looking for any sign that this was a joke. But Emma Caldwell didn't joke. She strategized. My daughter is going to have questions. Then don't tell her. She's 6. Tell her you're going on a work trip. She's also incredibly perceptive. Last month, she correctly guessed that her teacher was pregnant before the teacher even announced it. She said Mrs. Patterson smelled like vitamins and secrets. Emma's lips pressed together, fighting another smile. Then we'll just have to be convincing. The retreat was held at a resort in the mountains of North Georgia, the kind of place with roaring fireplaces, infinity pools, and couples holding hands everywhere you looked. Daniel carried their bags to the cabin, singular, because of course Morrison's assistant had booked them a romantic one-bedroom suite, while Emma walked beside him in silence. This is insane, he muttered under his breath. You've said that 14 times since we left Atlanta, because it keeps being true. Inside, the cabin was somehow worse than expected. Rose petals scattered across the bed. A bottle of champagne chilling by the window. A heart-shaped hot tub on the private deck. Emma stopped in the doorway, her expression flickering for just a moment before she reassembled her composure. I'll take the couch, she said briskly. It's a love seat. You're 5'8". You'll be folded like a pretzel. Then what do you suggest? Daniel looked at the king-size bed covered in rose petals, then back at his boss. We're adults. We can share a bed without it being weird. Just stay on your side, I'll stay on mine, and we'll pretend there's an invisible wall between us. An invisible wall. Made of professionalism and mutual respect. Emma pinched the bridge of her nose. Fine. But if you snore, I'm smothering you with a pillow. Noted. The first night was awkward, to say the least. Daniel lay rigidly on his side of the bed, staring at the ceiling, hyper-aware of every sound Emma made beside him. She slept quietly, of course she did, probably through sheer force of will, but her presence was impossible to ignore. She smelled like vanilla and something floral, which was deeply unfair. Mean bosses weren't supposed to smell nice. The next morning, they attended their first event, a couple's yoga session. Daniel had never done yoga in his life. Emma moved through the poses with surprising grace, while he toppled over during something called Warrior 3, and nearly took out an elderly couple beside them. You're supposed to engage your core, Emma whispered. I don't know what that means. It means stop flailing. This is flailing with purpose. Despite the rocky start, they fell into an unexpected rhythm as the day went on. During the welcome brunch, Morrison spotted them and rushed over, a broad smile on his weathered face. Daniel, and this must be the famous wife I've heard so much about. He took Emma's hand warmly. Richard Morrison, I've been wanting to meet you for years. This man never stops talking about you. Emma shot Daniel a look that promised future retribution, then transformed her expression into something warm and adoring. He's a terrible liar about many things, but never about love. It's one of his most annoying qualities. Morrison laughed heartily. I can tell already, you two have something special. How long have you been married? 3 years. Daniel said at the exact moment Emma said, 5 years. The silence was deafening. Morrison's eyebrow raised just slightly. 3 years legally. Emma recovered smoothly, sliding her arm through Daniel's. But we were together for 2 years before that. Sometimes he forgets to count the part, where I made him work for it. She really did. Daniel added, his heart hammering. I asked her out 6 times before she said yes. Persistence. Morrison nodded approvingly. That's what I like about you, Rivera. You don't give up. He clapped Daniel on the shoulder. Dinner's at 7. The wives are putting together a little spouse presentation. Each couple shares their love story. Can't wait to hear yours." He walked away, leaving Daniel and Emma in stunned silence. "A love story presentation," Emma said flatly. "You didn't mention that." "I didn't know." "How did you not know? Did you not read the retreat agenda?" There was an agenda. Emma closed her eyes, taking a long, slow breath. "We have 6 hours to create a convincing love story, memorize it, and present it to a room full of strangers without contradicting each other. Should we take notes?" "I've already started." They spent the afternoon holed up in their cabin, creating an elaborate backstory. They'd met at a coffee shop, neutral, believable. He'd spilled his drink on her laptop, characteristic Daniel disaster. She'd been furious until he'd offered to buy her a new one, which led to dinner, which led to 3 months of dating before he met her parents, who were initially skeptical but eventually charmed. "Was I charming?" Daniel asked. "You were tolerable. My fictional parents set a low bar. And when did I propose?" Emma consulted her notes. "At the top of Stone Mountain at sunset. You had the ring hidden in your hiking boot because you were afraid of losing it." "That actually sounds like something I'd do." "I know. I researched your personality type. You researched me. I research everyone I work with. You're an ENFP with conflict, avoidant tendencies, and an unhealthy attachment to your coffee maker. You named it Gerald." Daniel stared at her. "How do you know about Gerald?" "Tyler talks when he's nervous. You should hear what he said about your karaoke performance at last year's holiday party." "That was supposed to stay secret." "Nothing stays secret, Daniel. That's why we need to get this story absolutely perfect." By dinner, they'd rehearsed their love story enough times that Daniel almost believed it himself. The strange thing was, the more they talked, the more the fake details started bleeding into real conversations. Emma mentioned that her fictional parents were cold and distant, but the way she said it suggested they weren't entirely fictional. Daniel talked about fake, proposing at Stone Mountain, then found himself sharing the real story of how he'd once planned to propose to his ex-wife there, before she'd left him with a 2-year-old in a mountain of debt. She just left. Emma asked, something shifting in her expression. Said she wasn't cut out for motherhood. "I came home from work and found a note on the kitchen counter. Rosie was in her crib, crying. She'd been alone for hours." He paused, the old anger and hurt surfacing briefly before he pushed it back down. "I don't talk about it much. Rosie doesn't remember her, and honestly, that's probably for the best." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "My mother told me I was too much when I was 7. I'd won the school spelling bee, and instead of being proud, she said I was showing off, that I'd never find a husband if I kept trying to be smarter than everyone." She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "I spent the next 20 years trying to be less, and then I realized I was miserable, so I stopped. And now you alphabetize spice racks and run corporate branches." "Now I alphabetize spice racks and run corporate branches." Daniel smiled at her, a real smile, not the nervous customer service one he'd been wearing all day. "For what it's worth, I think your mother was wrong. Being smart isn't a flaw. And anyone who can't handle that probably isn't worth your time anyway." Emma's eyes met his, and for a moment, something electric passed between them. Then she looked away, clearing her throat. "Ooh, should get ready for dinner, right?"
Yeah.
Professional distance. Exactly. But as they walked to the main lodge, their shoulders brushing accidentally, Daniel couldn't help noticing that Emma didn't pull away. Now, if this story is giving you all the feels, drop a comment below telling me what you think is going to happen next. And wherever you're watching from in the world, let me know. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The dinner was elegant. White tablecloths, candlelight, the works. Each couple took turns standing at the front of the room to share their love story, and Daniel felt his anxiety ratcheting higher with each presentation. These were real couples with real histories, decades of memories and inside jokes, and the kind of intimacy that couldn't be faked. When it was finally their turn, Emma squeezed his hand under the table. "Just follow my lead," she murmured. They stood together, and Daniel was suddenly hyper-aware of how they looked, his hand in hers, her body angled toward his like a plant toward sunlight. Had they always stood this close? "We met at a coffee shop," Emma began, her voice warm and steady. "I was working on a presentation, because that's apparently all I do, and this man walks in, orders the most complicated drink I've ever heard, and promptly spills it all over my laptop." Laughter rippled through the room. Daniel felt some of his tension ease. "In my defense," he added, "it was a very slippery cup. He offered to buy me a new laptop. I told him he couldn't afford me." Emma's lips curved. He said, "Then I'll just have to earn you." "I didn't say it that smoothly." "No," he actually said, "Can I buy you dinner maybe? Or a laptop? Both." "Sorry, I'm nervous. You're very pretty and I can't feel my hands." More laughter. Daniel glanced at Emma, surprised by how easily the lies flowed, and how much of it felt true. She looked up at him, and for just a second, her mask slipped. Something raw flickered in her eyes. "The truth is," she continued, her voice softer now, "I didn't expect to fall in love. I didn't think I had time for it, or room in my life for someone else's chaos. But Daniel," she paused, and Daniel realized with a start that she wasn't looking at the audience anymore. She was looking at him. "Daniel made me realize that sometimes the best things in life are the ones you didn't plan for." The room erupted in applause. Emma's cheeks flushed pink, and she stepped back quickly, as if she'd said too much. Daniel's heart was pounding for reasons he couldn't name. "That was good," he whispered as they returned to their seats. "It was adequate," she whispered back, but she didn't let go of his hand. That night, they stayed up late talking, really talking, not just rehearsing lies. Emma told him about her failed engagement to a man who'd wanted a trophy wife, not a partner. Daniel told her about the years of struggling to balance single fatherhood with a demanding career, about the guilt he felt every time he missed a school event, about how Rosie was the best thing in his life, and also the reason he never slept. "You're a good father," Emma said quietly. They were sitting on the deck, wrapped in blankets, the stars scattered across the sky like spilled diamonds. "I can tell by the way you talk about her. She's lucky to have you. I don't feel lucky most days. I feel like I'm barely holding it together." That's how you know you're doing it right. The people who think they have it all figured out are usually the ones making the biggest messes. Daniel turned to look at her, really look at her, and something shifted in his chest. She wasn't the cold, calculating boss he'd assumed. She was just as scared and uncertain as everyone else. She was just better at hiding it. "Why did you really offer to do this?" he asked. "The fake wife thing. It's a huge risk for someone in your position." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "Because I saw your file," she finally said. "I saw the notes from your performance reviews. Creative problem solver, beloved by colleagues, brings donuts on Fridays, even when the budget doesn't allow for it." She smiled faintly. "And then I saw the notes from HR about how many times you've almost lost your job because you couldn't afford childcare during school closures. How you once brought your daughter to a client meeting because you had no other option and somehow still closed the deal. She helped. She told the client his tie was ugly, but his smile was nice. He thought it was hilarious. My point is, Daniel, you're exactly the kind of person who deserves a break, and you never ask for one. So I decided to give you one." Daniel felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd kept carefully locked away since his wife had left. That's unexpectedly kind of you. Don't tell anyone. It'll ruin my reputation as an ice queen. Your secret's safe with me. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling. And when they finally went inside to sleep, Daniel noticed that the invisible wall between their sides of the bed felt a little less solid than before. He woke up the next morning to warmth, soft, unfamiliar warmth pressed against his side. His eyes opened slowly, and his brain short-circuited. Emma was curled against him, her head resting on his shoulder, her arm draped across his chest. She looked softer in sleep, younger somehow. The tension lines around her eyes smoothed away. He should move. He should definitely move. This was his boss, his fake wife, a woman who would probably fire him if she knew he was lying here, enjoying the weight of her body against his. But he didn't move. He lay perfectly still, breathing slowly, trying not to wake her. The morning light filtered through the curtains, catching the gold in her hair, and Daniel thought, absurdly, impossibly, that he could get used to this. Then Emma stirred, her eyes fluttered open, and for one perfect moment, she just looked at him. Not with panic, not with embarrassment, just looked. "Good morning," she said, her voice husky with sleep. "Good morning." Neither of them moved. The sound of Daniel's phone shattered the moment, a loud, insistent ring that made them both jolt apart. He grabbed it, his heart hammering. "Daddy." Rosie's voice was small and wobbly. "Daddy, I don't feel good. My tummy hurts and I want you to come home." Every parental instinct Daniel had went on high alert. "I'm coming, sweetheart. Tell Aunt Jessica I'm leaving right now. Drink some water and lie down, okay?" "Daddy's coming." He hung up and looked at Emma, who was already standing, her expression understanding. "Go," she said. "I'll handle Morrison. Your daughter needs you." But the presentation, the account, Daniel, her hand closed over his, warm and steady. "Some things are more important than accounts. Go be a father." He didn't think. He just acted. He pulled her into a hug. Brief, fierce, completely inappropriate for a boss-employee relationship, and whispered, "Thank you." Then he was gone, racing down the mountain toward home. Rosie had the flu. Just the regular flu, nothing serious. But she clung to Daniel like he was her only anchor in a storm. He spent the next 2 days on the couch with her, watching cartoons, making soup, and trying not to think about the presentation he'd abandoned. When he finally got a text from Tyler, Morrison signed a 3-year extension. Emma killed it. She actually smelled it at the end. "I think the world is ending." Daniel felt relief flood through him. Emma had done it. She'd saved the account, saved the branch, saved his job. But that wasn't what made his chest ache. What made his chest ache was the memory of waking up with her against him. The way she'd looked in the morning light. The way she'd said, "Go be a father," like it was the most natural thing in the world. When he returned to work on Monday, everything felt different. Emma was back behind her desk, her professional mask firmly in place, but something had shifted between them. An awareness. An electricity. "Mr. Rivera," she said, not looking up from her laptop. "I trust your daughter is feeling better. Much better." She asked when Daddy's work friend is coming to visit. Emma's typing paused. "You told her about me." "I told her I went on a work trip with a colleague." "She drew you a picture." He placed a crayon drawing on her desk, a stick figure with yellow hair holding hands with a smaller stick figure with brown hair. "That's you and Rosie. She's decided you're going to be best friends." Emma stared at the drawing for a long moment. When she looked up, her eyes were suspiciously bright. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll come to dinner on Friday. Rosie's been practicing her spaghetti. That's how she says it, and she really wants to show you." "That's highly inappropriate. We spent a weekend pretending to be married. I think we've passed inappropriate." The corner of Emma's mouth twitched. "Friday at 7. Friday at 7. But happiness, Daniel was learning, never came without complications. Because on Wednesday, the regional director from New York showed up, a man named Marcus Webb, who had a smile like a shark and eyes that missed nothing. He watched Daniel and Emma's interactions with obvious interest, and by Thursday, the rumors had started. People are saying you two had an affair at the retreat, Tyler told Daniel in hushed tones. Webb's been asking questions. If he finds out about the fake marriage thing, Daniel felt his blood run cold. How would he find out? I don't know, man, but he's been watching you two like a hawk, and HR just sent out a memo about appropriate workplace relationships. It's not good. That night, Daniel found Emma in her office, looking more stressed than he'd ever seen her. Webb knows, she said flatly. I don't know how, but he knows. He's giving me until Friday to either resign or explain myself.
What? He can't do that?
He can. I lied about my relationship with a subordinate. I put the company at risk. From his perspective, I violated about 14 HR policies. She laughed bitterly. Funny. I've spent my whole career building something, and it's all going to end because I tried to help someone. It's not going to end. Daniel stepped closer, his jaw set. We're going to figure this out. How? Webb wants blood. If I fight this, it becomes a scandal. If I resign, I lose everything. There's no winning. Daniel thought about his daughter, about the picture she'd drawn, about the woman standing in front of him, who'd risk everything just to give him a chance. And he made a decision. Then we tell the truth. What? We tell Webb exactly what happened, that I made a stupid comment at a soccer game, that Morrison thought I was married, that you offered to help save the branch and the jobs of 47 people. We don't hide anything. We don't spin anything. We just tell the truth. That's career suicide. Maybe, or maybe Webb respects honesty. Either way, I'm not letting you take the fall for something we did together. Emma stared at him, something cracking in her composure. You'd risk your job for me? Emma. He said her name softly, stepping close enough to touch her. I'd risk a lot more than that. The meeting with Webb was tense. Daniel did most of the talking, explaining the situation, taking responsibility, emphasizing that Emma's only motivation had been protecting the branch and its employees. Webb listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When Daniel finished, Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. You know, Webb said, leaning back in his chair, I've been in this business for 30 years. I've seen people lie, cheat, and backstab their way to the top. But I've never seen someone walk into my office and confess to something that could end their career just to protect their boss. He looked at Emma. And I've never seen a regional director risk her position to save a branch she could have easily let fail. Sir, Emma's voice was uncertain. Morrison called me yesterday. He was raving about your presentation, about how Daniel Rivera has the most genuine love story he's ever heard. He specifically mentioned how refreshing it was to meet a couple who actually seemed to like each other. Webb's eyes sparkled with something like amusement. Hay extended the contract for 5 years, not 3, and he's recommending us to 3 of his associates. Daniel's heart stopped. So we're not fired. You're not fired. But, Webb held up a hand. The 2 of you are going to have to figure out whatever this is, professionally or otherwise. Because from where I'm sitting, that fake marriage of yours looked pretty damn real. He left them alone in the conference room, the door clicking shut behind him. Daniel and Emma stood in silence, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. So, Daniel finally said, So, Webb thinks we're in love. Webb is very perceptive. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. Is he right? The question hung in the air. Emma looked at him. Really looked, the way she had that morning in the cabin when the world had been quiet, and they'd been wrapped in blankets and starlight. I've spent my whole life planning everything, she said slowly. Every career move, every relationship, every decision. I don't do spontaneous. I don't do messy. And you, Daniel Rivera, are the messiest thing that's ever happened to me. Is that a yes or a no? It's a... She broke off, laughing helplessly. It's I have no idea what I'm doing. But I don't want to stop doing it. Daniel closed the distance between them, his hand coming up to cup her face. For the record, I'm terrified too. I've got a 6-year-old who thinks spaghetti is spelled with 4 syllables, a cat named Gerald. Wait, no, I don't have a cat. I have a coffee maker named Gerald. And I'm pretty sure I'm falling for my boss, who once threatened to smother me with a pillow. I never actually threatened. You heavily implied. There's a difference. Daniel kissed her. It wasn't a perfect kiss, his nose bumped hers. She laughed against his mouth, and somewhere in the building, Tyler definitely saw them through the conference room window and dropped his coffee. But it was real. Wonderfully, messily, impossibly real. When they finally pulled apart, Emma was smiling, a real smile, the kind that crinkled her eyes and softened her entire face. Rosie's going to be insufferable about this, Daniel said. She did draw us holding hands. She knew before we did. She's a genius. Gets it from me. She absolutely does not. Friday dinner became Saturday breakfast, became Sunday afternoon, became every day that Daniel could steal with this woman who had walked into his life and turned everything upside down. Rosie adored Emma. She knows all the dinosaur names, Daddy! AL of them! And Emma, to Daniel's constant amazement, adored her right back. They took it slow, navigating the complications of a workplace relationship with the same careful strategy Emma applied to everything. There were challenges, late nights, difficult clients, the occasional spectacular argument that ended in equally spectacular making up. But through it all, they were a team. 6 months later, Daniel stood at the top of Stone Mountain at sunset, for real this time, with a ring he'd been saving for years and a speech he'd practiced 47 times. Emma, he said, his voice shaking only slightly. I know we started this whole thing with a lie. Fake marriage, fake love story, fake everything. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being fake for me. You make me want to be better, a better employee, a better father, a better man. You alphabetize my spice rack and challenge me when I'm being an idiot and read bedtime stories to my daughter in funny voices. You're the most extraordinary person I've ever met, and I don't want to pretend anymore. He dropped to one knee, the ring catching the last light of the setting sun. Will you marry me? For real this time? Emma laughed, that beautiful, unexpected laugh that still caught him off guard every time and pulled him to his feet. Yes, she said, kissing him soundly. But I'm alphabetizing the vows. I wouldn't expect anything less. And if you made it to the end of this story, first of all, thank you so much for watching. This story was actually inspired by my aunt and uncle, who met at work under the most ridiculous circumstances and spent years pretending they were just colleagues before finally admitting what everyone else already knew. Love finds you in the strangest places, sometimes in boardrooms, sometimes in fake marriages, sometimes in the chaos of everyday life. The key is being brave enough to recognize it when it shows up. So here's my question for you. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your country in the comments below. I absolutely love seeing how far these stories travel. Whether you're in the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, Germany, India, Brazil, or anywhere else on this beautiful planet, thank you for being here. If this story made you smile, made you cry, or made you believe in love just a little bit more, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. And share this with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never planned for. Until next time, take care of yourselves, Take care of each other, and never stop believing that your own love story is out there waiting for you, even if it shows up wearing a navy blazer and alphabetizing